Today, we're diving deep into an ancient and, honestly, a profound confrontation from the Quran's 28th chapter, Al-Qasas. Now, this isn't a story about clashing armies or physical battles. No, this is an intellectual duel, a high-stakes clash between a prophet and a king over the very nature of reality itself.
So these are the words right here that kick off this entire incredible debate. On one side, you have Pharaoh, the absolute ruler of his domain, and he's being challenged by Moses, but not with a weapon, not with an army, but with an idea. An idea so powerful it forces the king to respond in this truly extraordinary way.
Here's how we're going to break down this intellectual showdown. First, we'll look at Pharaoh's incredibly bold claim. Then we'll see Moses' brilliant counter-argument. After that, we get to the infamous tower, and we'll analyze what it really represented. And finally, we'll wrap up by thinking about the timeless truths this whole story brings to light.
Okay, so first things first, to really get what's going on, we have to get inside Pharaoh's head. You have to understand his position. He wasn't just some political leader. In his world, in his kingdom, he was the final word on reality. His entire power structure was built on what people could see, what they could touch.
And this is his opening shot, delivered right to his inner circle. "O chiefs, I have not known for you any god other than myself." Wow. Talk about an absolute statement. He is laying down the law right from the start. For everyone in Egypt, divinity begins and it ends with him. That's the playing field he's establishing.
Now, this is so important to understand. When Pharaoh says, "I have not known," he's not claiming to know everything in the universe. No. What he's really saying, according to the commentary, comes from a purely materialistic worldview. His knowledge is capped by his senses. For him, if you can't see a god, touch a god, or measure a god, well, then it just isn't real, period.
So how does Moses respond to that? Well, this is where it gets absolutely brilliant. He doesn't show up with a rival king or some bigger, better idol. No, he completely reframes the entire conversation. He yanks the argument out of the tangible world of Egypt and elevates it to the vast, unseen cosmos.
And you can really see the difference when we put their claims side by side. On one hand, you've got Pharaoh. His claim to lordship is over Egypt. It's visible, it's political, it's tangible. On the other hand, Moses is talking about a Lord of the heavens and the earth, a power that is the unseen cause of everything, an authority that isn't political, it's cosmological. I mean, they're not even arguing on the same plane of existence anymore.
And this is the real key to his strategy. Moses is using reason, an argument of the intellect known as aql. He's not trying to play Pharaoh's game and win a sensory contest. He is making a logical, rational case for a first cause, a creator who exists beyond the limits of what our eyes can see. And that just fundamentally shatters Pharaoh's entire worldview.
And this right here brings us to the climax. Pharaoh, who is a master politician, he realizes he's losing this intellectual debate. He's been outmaneuvered. And what do powerful people so often do when they're cornered by logic? They create a spectacle. A huge one.
Let's be really clear here. This is not a sign of confidence. It's an act of pure desperation. By pivoting the debate away from logic and towards a physical quest, Pharaoh is basically admitting, without saying a word, that he can't win on Moses' terms.
And so he gives this grand, theatrical command. He turns to his minister Haman and orders him to build a tower. And what's the reason? So he can climb up and look at the God of Moses. And notice that little jab at the end? He's already framing the outcome, suggesting he fully expects to find nothing and prove Moses is a liar.
And this brings us right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? Why a tower? Of all the things he could have done, why order this massive construction project? He's the king of Egypt. Surely he could have summoned his best philosophers for a counter-argument. What was the real strategy behind building this tower?
All right, so now let's analyze this tower for what it really was. This wasn't a sincere mission to find God. Not at all. This was a brilliant, cynical, and masterful piece of political theater. It was a strategy of pure deflection.
So according to the source commentary, this tower was doing a lot of things at once. First, it was a public show designed to mock the very idea of an unseen God. Second, it was a massive diversion, get everyone talking about a building project instead of the actual argument. Third, it played right into his people's materialistic beliefs. It was also, crucially, a quiet admission that he'd lost the intellectual fight. And finally, and this is the masterstroke, it was a strategic move to drag the whole debate from the realm of reason, of aql, back to his home turf, the realm of physical sensory proof, or hiss.
So, in the end, that tower is so much more than just a building. It becomes a symbol, It's a monument to a worldview that flat out refuses to accept any truth that can't be seen or weighed or physically measured.
So you might be wondering, okay, why does this ancient story about a tyrant and a tower still matter so much today? Because the core conflict at its heart, that has never, ever gone away. It speaks to a tension that is fundamental to the human search for truth. The ultimate takeaway is actually incredibly simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It doesn't matter how high you build your tower. It doesn't matter how powerful your telescopes are. Some truths are simply not accessible through physical sight alone. This whole narrative is just a powerful metaphor for that timeless conflict between two different ways of knowing, isn't it? On one side, you have knowledge that you get from empirical, sensory evidence. On the other, you have knowledge you arrive at through faith and reason. Pharaoh represents the absolute limit of the first way, while Moses champions the power of the second.
And that really leaves us with a question for our own time. In a world like ours, so driven by data, by algorithms, by what we can prove, what's the place for truths that can't be put on a spreadsheet? How do we value things like love, or justice, or beauty, or faith? These are all concepts you will never ever see from the top of any tower.